everyone, my name is Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Today we are going to be talking about kingdom marriage once again, and just kind of like the discernment process of how to pinpoint your finger on the person that might be really good for you. So let's get into it. Today I'm not really going to be going too much into the Bible at all, so it's a little bit different from usual. However, I do want you to know that the stuff that I'll be sharing, I hope, is considered fairly like biblical type of advice, right? So this YouTube channel that I've got here is called Lindsay Birch, which is my name, and also Discipling Kingdom Leaders. And what this discipling is basically one person imparting wisdom to another person, teaching, guiding, sharing helpful, wise information for that other person, the mentee or the disciple, for that person to grow and to learn in a similar way to that first person, how they do things or have done things in the past. And so what I'm trying to do for you guys is to share the things that I've been learning and growing in, so that hopefully you guys will find some value in all this stuff and take it on board personally. And then maybe if you find it benefits your life, you can share it with others, and then they can share it with others. And, you know, it actually makes a big difference in the world. The things that I share are helpful for your life, are helpful for other people's lives. And yeah, that would be a really good end result for me. However, I also learn these things from other people. And look, the only way to do discipling is not one person speaking either by video or in person, but another way that we can experience discipling is through books or just the wisdom that people have imparted, even if it's not directly face to face for us, right? So like in this example right now, I'm speaking to a bunch of you guys out there. I don't know who you are. I'm doing it via video. You're not interacting with me, but you are here taking in the things that I am telling you and hopefully taking on board whatever you find of value. And another way we can do this is, we read somebody has written a book, they've put together all of these ideas, they've done their research or whatever it is, and then we read that and we're like, okay, I'm going to take that really important piece, I'm going to take that important piece, and we experience discipling that way as well. It's not obviously the traditional way we would think of discipling, like Jesus walking around with his 12 disciples or anything. That's a very personal, intimate way of doing it, and it is like the traditional model, but mentoring and discipling can be done in a variety of different ways. So why I'm saying this and laying this groundwork for you guys is because the mentoring that I have chosen to take into my life a lot of the time has been through books, or it has been through other people on the internet, on YouTube videos, and it's also been with people in real life, either face to face or people that I call on the phone, things like that. So I'm laying this foundation for you guys because I really want to share quite a few different passages from a book that I've been reading recently. And I've done this a couple of times in the past with various different books. But today I want to share with you a book that's very relevant to this whole idea of kingdom marriage. And it's actually one of the first books that I read when I began my journey with kingdom marriage and with submitting my love life to God. So if any of you guys recall, back in 2018 at Easter time, was when God and I had this conversation, and God was like, hey, do you want to give your love life to me? That way I can sort of, bring you a husband one day, and you don't have to like go through all this emotional pain in the process that you're going through right now. And I chose to give my love life to him at that time. And once I did that, once I was like, okay, now I've submitted my love life to God, maybe like what's the next step? Is there anything that I should be doing right now in order to prepare myself for when I do get married? Like, he's got the whole person organized. I don't know who it is right now, but I do know he's working on it. If there is going to be anyone at all, and if not, if like I've given my love life to God and he makes me die an old maid, then so be it. He's in charge. But just in case I do get married, I think maybe I should start figuring out what that really means and how can I be best prepared to have a really awesome godly marriage. So that's the thought process that I had, and so I went to one of my actual mentors in person. This was a lady who worked at the university where I was at the time. She's a really good friend. She's just this cheery old lady. She's now retired, and I went up to her and I actually visited her home around the corner from the university, and I was like, hey, so I've given my love life to God, and I was just wondering if you have any books that maybe I could read that would help prepare me for marriage. And so she had to think for a moment and she showed me her bookcase and she picked out 2 books and she gave them to me and she's like, read these 2 books. And I was like, okay. And so the 2 books that she gave me were both written by Ellen White. And the first one is Messages to Young People and the second one is Adventist Home. And I kind of skimmed through the contents of each of them and I decided I'm going to start with Messages to Young People and then I'll read Adventist Home, because the Messages to Young People, basically the content talks about all sorts of different things that a young person should know about maintaining a good relationship with God, the importance of that because of the spiritual battle that we're in, doing just things like looking after your health, getting your education, going out in nature, like obeying your parents, allowing your parents to have a say, if they are godly parents, to have a say in the people that you are taking an interest in, whether that be just your friends or like your actual romantic partners. And sort of right at the very, very end, it starts talking about dating. And I was like, okay, the end of this book starts talking about dating, and then the start of Adventist Home also starts off by talking about dating and then going into marriage, and then what married life looks like as the husband and the wife, as the child, and all those sort of areas. And so I just did it in a Lydia format for myself in that way. Now, I read these books a couple of years ago now. So the first one I read in 2018, and I ended up reading, excuse me, I've been sick recently. I ended up reading Adventist Home mostly in 2019. Now, in 2019, I actually moved down to Melbourne, and I said to this lady who was lending me her books at the time, and I was like, I've basically finished the first book, but I've hardly started the second one. And she had to think, and a couple of days she came back, a couple of days later she came back and she actually gave me, she went out and bought brand new copies of these books and gave them to me, and there's some really cute notes in the front. What does it say in this one? It says, "Dear Lindsay, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year." And the other one was a happy birthday one, because my birthday and Christmas are relatively close together. So, yeah, this is a very special book to me. It's been gifted to me by a mentor of mine for the purpose of being prepared for kingdom marriage. And now, with that very long introduction, I would actually like to share some of the things that I've been rereading recently. A friend of mine recently brought up that he's been reading through this book, and I was like, oh, I remember I have that book on my shelf, and I probably could do with a recap by now. So I've picked it up, and a couple of my friends and I have been looking at it together, and I've been reading it as well in my free time. And I've been underlining some things, and just today I was thinking, what should I share with you guys? And this thought that any 2 people can make it work. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying, or it's not even so much a saying, it's like something that people throw into conversations when they talk about, who you should marry or what kind of person you should date, or whether it's okay to date someone from another religion, or, whatever. And sometimes people are like very wise when they say, oh, any 2 people can make it work. But I've been thinking about that particular thought recently, and I'm like, I actually disagree at this point in my life. I don't think that any two people can make it work. Now, this is usually used to offset the idea that God has the one for you set aside, and I have gone through a period of believing that particularly, and now I'm not so sure about that end of the spectrum either. So I'm still working out and navigating what this whole process looks like with, having kingdom marriage and getting there, Is there this one, or are we able to pick any old person and make it work with whoever, and God can just rubber stamp whatever we choose and say, God, please bless it? No. My opinion, my strong opinion that I would like to share with you guys today is that no, not any two people can make it work, and there are some very important, significant things, sorry for a better word, that we need to be taking note of and considering, is this going to be likely to work, and is it going to cause more trouble than it's worth, really? So here is a bit of a list of things, and I've got some quotes from this book, Adventist Home, that I'd like to share that I think say some similar things. Not all of my list has backup quotes, but some of it does. So some ideas that I jotted down were, first of all, religion. Now, there are backup quotes, but I didn't actually write it down for this one. Essentially, the idea is, if you're a Christian, don't be unequally yoked. You cannot, as a Christian, have a very good, successful, harmonious, happy marriage that is a kingdom marriage where you are sharing the gospel with other people together as a unified couple. You cannot do that if one of the people in the marriage is not a Christian, is not committed to doing that with you. Okay? I'm really sorry to break it to you. Religion is a very important foundational thing, because religion is essentially your personal relationship with God. If you are a Christian, then you want to honor God as best as you can, and God wants the very best for you as well. And when you're a Christian, you have like the fruits of the Spirit in your life, and you are living your life to serve God and to serve others. And yet, if you marry somebody who is not a Christian, who does not have the love of Jesus in their hearts, who does not feel the need to honor God in anything that they do, who's essentially the opposite of love, because God is love, and if they don't have God, they don't have true, actual, real, deep love, and love is other-centeredness. The opposite of other-centeredness is selfishness. It's pleasure-seeking. It's how can I get the most out of any and every situation. If you marry someone who is not a Christian, you are marrying someone who is selfish and has no reason to do anything else than be selfish. And they are going to cause your life to be a bit miserable, to be honest, because they're not going to put your needs first as just a principle because they're a Christian, right? And they're going to actually influence you to become more selfish. Their character will rub off on you in the long run. Even if there are similarities in religion, such as the same, you're both technically Christians, but there are two different denominations happening. There are two different theological sets of beliefs. Even if they seem to be very similar theological sets of beliefs, there are still enough differences. Sorry. Being sick has made my brain kind of slow down a little bit, guys. If there are two people who have similar theologies, but there are some distinct differences, that is going to cause problems down the track. And whoever is, I guess, the most overbearing in the long run, or whatever, they're going to have an influence over the other. Theological things are very, very important foundational things, and if you do not have this unified together, you're both going to struggle, and one of you, if not both of you, are going to lose. And unfortunately, in the case of theological heresies or major religious differences, the person who's a Christian will very likely lose out on salvation in the long run. if you understand anything about once saved, always saved, and sort of the theological debate around that, essentially, our salvation is something that it's based on our daily relationship with God. If we are not maintaining that over a long period of time, it is something that we can lose grasp of. So it's very important that we are very, very careful with who we bring into our lives and who we keep closest to us, because they will influence us, they will impact us, and this is a very, very serious thing to consider. Okay, guys? I don't know how else to stress that more, but we actually have to move on to the next point, guys. So, another thing I just want to quickly brush over is culture. So, cultural differences can be very significant in a marriage relationship. Now, I learned this when I was a mission kid. So, some of you guys know that when I was 14 to 16 years old, my family and I, we moved out to the Solomon Islands. And part of the training to become missionaries, we had a 3-week intensive at actually the university that I ended up attending. And people from all over the world who were becoming missionaries, we all got together and we just basically learnt about culture shock. We learnt about transitioning into different cultures and getting back into our host cultures and all sorts of stuff, like all the ins and outs of what to expect and the discomfort of going through all of that. With moving to another country that experiences life in a completely different way with different sets of rules and all sorts of things like that. And so one of the things that I learnt in those 3 weeks was it's really better not to marry someone who has such vastly different culture than you. Now, the world that we live in is so culturally interconnected and so much interchange is happening over the years that this is becoming less of an issue, but it can still pose significant hurdles for married life in the future, especially, like, for example, me, a white girl, marries, like, a traditional Indian guy. Like, there is so many so many different cultural expectations. First of all, just with the religious background, but even if he was Christian, but grew up in just like Delhi or wherever, I would not feel comfortable living up to certain cultural expectations. I wouldn't know how to cook the food, even though I do like Indian food. I only know like 3 dishes basically. Like, there would be so many, how do I interact with the family members and the culture and all that kind of thing. There's a lot of things that are unnecessary hurdles and additional differences that should not be brought into a marriage if they can be avoided. Okay? So be very careful as well. Like, just look at these things, and whoever you're considering to make your life partner, is this person compatible with me in just the way that we live our lives? Because we're going to be stuck together, essentially. As soon as we say I do, that's it until we die. Unless there's like significant, adultery or like major abuse for that to end, then you guys are stuck together for the rest of your lives. You got to be able to figure this out. You guys are going to have to bend, and it's easier to not have to have so many things to accommodate from the very beginning, when you could pick somebody who lives down the street and they're a lot better off for you, right? Okay, so that's the cultural thing. Expectations come along with that. What kind of expectations do you have for your life? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to have a career? Like, what are your expectations of ministry, or serving God in whatever way He's calling you? What are your expectations of a partner, how they treat you, all these kind of things? Do you know what they are for yourselves? Like, do you know who you are and where you're going in life? And do you know if the person that you're interested in, do they know what their expectations in life are for all these things, how to interact with others? Like, these are things to really consider and to discuss and to work out. Are you on the same page about a lot of those things? Education. Being similarly educated is a pretty good indicator of marital success. People who have very different levels of education. One person hasn't finished high school and another person has like got their PhD or whatever. They're not likely to be on the same page. So now there's a spectrum, and not a lot of people who are like PhD and not finished high school educated, they don't tend to get together anyway. But education, like if you are both high school educated and you're happy with that, if you're both like TAFE educated and you're happy with that, if you're both like university educated, bachelor's or master's, or you know there's a bachelor's and a master's, that's okay. You know, those kind of things are important because they impact the way that you view the world. So yeah, something else to keep in mind and to consider. Now some more things that I wanted to get into are ministry and calling. I touched on this a moment ago. Do you know what God's calling on your life is? Do you have any sort of idea? For me, I have no idea exactly pinpointing where God wants me to go in life, but I do know that I have a pretty big, vague, general idea that it has to do with ministry to young people. I've known that since I was 13. That's it. Okay? I have some other specific ways that that has happened already in my life, where like working in chaplaincy, working in universities, working, you know, just with young people in churches, those kind of things. And that gives me direction. That helps me to know, okay, is the person that I'm going to marry, are they able to work alongside me in that area? Are they able to encourage me in that way? Or is the ministry that they've called, like that God has called them to, is that so vastly, distinctly different? Like, I'm interested in going back into mission work and living overseas again, eventually, not straight away. I'm sick of moving right now. But it's good for me to know that about myself, because I need to know if whoever I marry in the future, are they open to that? Are they up for that? Do they feel like God is calling them to that kind of thing? So something to keep in mind is, first of all, before you're marrying anyone, you should know what your purpose and your calling is to some degree. Like, you should have a genuine, real, living experience with God, and you know, not just be a brand new baby Christian who's just been saved yesterday, ideally, if you can avoid it. But like also have this growing understanding of what he's calling you to, what your skills and your giftings are, what are your spiritual gifts, how does God want you to be educated? Like, what has he called you to study at university or whatever? Like, what kind of business does he want you to start, or what kind of job does he want you to work in? Like, what are the things, what are the soft skills in life that you have been picking up along the way? What could that all work together for? And what kind of person with what kind of skills would complement that in ministry? How can you work together to share the gospel? This is so, so important. Because God is not just putting these marriages together for kingdom marriages just so that we can live happily ever after. That's a fairy tale, that's Disney, and it's a lie. Okay? We are all going to die unless Jesus comes back first. We're all not going to live happily ever after. This world is filled with horrible things. And when we get married, life will still be difficult, but we will be married. And that will bring some degree of extra joy into it, hopefully. So, kingdom marriages are actually meant to be a strategic tool for two people to be very close together, experiencing the joy of marriage, as well as doing ministry together, okay? Just so we're all clear on that. Compatibility and interest. First of all, for ministry and calling, I have a backup text from the book. Yay, let's have a look at that. So we're going to go to Adventist Home, pages 101 and 102. So, yeah. Oh, I like this one. I like this one a lot. Maybe I should have left this one to last. But anyway. So, this is called The Blending of Two Lives. The note says, it's remarks by Mrs. Ellen White on the occasion of a wedding ceremony at Sanitarium, California in 1905. So, this is some things that she said at a wedding. She says, "This is an important period in the history of the ones who have stood before you to unite their interests, their sympathies, their love, their labour with each other in the ministry of the saving of souls. In the marriage relation, there is a very important step taken, the blending of two lives into one. It is in accord with the will of God that man and wife should be linked together in his work to carry it forward in a wholeness and a holiness. They can do this. The blessing of God in the home where this union shall exist is as the sunshine of heaven, because it is the Lord's ordained will that man and wife should be linked together in holy bonds of union under Jesus Christ, with him to control and his spirit to guide. God wants the home to be the happiest place on earth, the very symbol of the home in heaven. Bearing the marriage responsibilities in the home, linking their interests with Jesus Christ, leaning upon his arm and his assurance, husband and wife may share a happiness in this union that angels of God commend. Marriage does not lessen their usefulness, but strengthens it. They may make that married life a ministry to win souls to Christ, and I know whereof I speak, because for 36 years my husband and I were united, and we went everywhere that the Lord said go. In this matter, we know that we have the commendation of God in the marriage relation. Therefore, it is a solemn ordinance. And now I can at this time take the hand this our brother, and we take by the hand you his wife, and urge you to carry on the work of God unitedly. I would say, make God your counselor, blend together." I think that is just so beautiful and so 100% kingdom marriage. Like, this is exactly what it's about. Get married, work together, live like a beautiful blended life together, just be really close and unified and share the gospel. That's what it's all about. Okay? That's it. I was so happy when I was reading that this afternoon that I just like put a big circle around the entire massive paragraph. Yeah, it was a good time. So I wanted to share that with you guys. So moving on to compatibility and interests. On page 83, adapted to each other. So before I read that, the thoughts that I had as I wrote this down, like I was just jotting down ideas, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I know something that backs up that idea. Things that came to mind about compatibility is like, do you guys have similar interests? Like, are you interested in doing the same types of things, same types of activities? Are you interested in doing ministry in the same types of ways? Like, yeah, can you just bond over simple joys in life together? Those kind of things. So, for this one, adapted to each other, we're on page 83. It says, "In many families, there is not that Christian politeness, that true courtesy, deference, and respect for one another that would prepare its members to marry and make happy families of their own. In the place of patience, kindness, tender courtesy, and Christian sympathy and love, there are sharp words, clashing ideas, and a criticizing dictatorial spirit. It is often the case that persons before marriage have little opportunity to become acquainted with each other's habits and disposition. And, so far as everyday life is concerned, they are virtually strangers when they unite their interests at the altar. Many find, too late, that they are not adapted to each other, and lifelong wretchedness is the result of their union. Often the wife and children suffer from the indolence and inefficiency or the vicious habits of the husband and father. The world is full of misery and sin today in consequence of ill-assorted marriages. In many cases, it takes only a few months for husband and wife to realize that their dispositions can never blend, and the result is that discord prevails in the home, where only the love and harmony of heaven should exist. By contention over trivial matters, a bitter spirit is cultivated. Open disagreements and bickering bring inexpressible misery into the home and drive asunder those who should be united in the bonds of love. Thus, thousands have sacrificed themselves, soul and body, by unwise marriages and have gone down the path of perdition. Yeah, and then just briefly on page 85 says it should henceforth be the life study of both husband and wife how to avoid everything that creates contention and to keep unbroken the marriage vows. I underlined that bit because like it says it should be the life study of both the man and the woman to avoid anything that causes contention, anything that creates a fight. Like we should be studying this, I believe, even before we become married. How can we avoid creating conflict? Conflict is going to happen, whether you like it or not, but how can we avoid creating unnecessary conflict? How can we learn to engage in conflict and fight fair and not cause problems and fight in an aggressive or just unfair kind of way. A lot of the time people whether they're married or they're dating or they're just friends or whoever just don't know how to engage in conflict well, don't know how to express themselves clearly or articulately. And it's very important to know how to engage with your own emotions and to understand them and to express them, as well as to hear somebody else's emotions as they're trying to express them, and to engage in that conflict in a good, healthy kind of way. There's a lot of resources online about this. I think the Secure Relationship Instagram page is quite good about talking about some of these things. There's a few other pages that come to mind, but I can't quite pinpoint what they're called to share with you guys what they are. But if you think that the way that you engage in conflict is something that you need to work on, go look it up. There's so much online. There's so much good Christian stuff online about how to do that. Let's move on. So, mental health is something that I wanted to bring up. I don't have any real passages from the book here about that, but for me, knowing that my own family of origin and my own personal healing journey, I think I've shared with you guys, I've had a fairly tumultuous family experience. My dad's been quite abusive, and there's been a breakup in the family, and there's so much stuff going on, so much family stress that I've personally gone through from a very early age, and it's just continued throughout most of my life. And so that has meant that I've needed to do a lot of personal healing work. I've gone and seen counselors over the years, lots of different ones. And I've just, I've read books, I've shared here in the past. It's really important to me then to know that whoever I end up with, if they have a lot of stuff in their past, have they dealt with that? Are they willing to go through that healing process to deal with whatever issues they have in the past, so that we can both come into this relationship as healthy and as healed and as whole as possible, that we can make ourselves before we come into this, so that we're not unnecessarily causing extra tension because we have all these undealt with triggers and things from our past that we're just avoiding, right? I want to know that I'm a healthy, happy, emotionally stable kind of person, and I want to know that whoever I marry, they're also doing the best that they can do to be that person as well, so that we can have an amazing time together as much as humanly possible, right? With God's blessing on top of that. So, mental health, are you working on, processing the things that have happened in your life and how that impacts you right now and how you interact with your friends and your family and your significant others? Are you dealing with that? And also, the person that you're interested in, are they dealing with that in their own lives? Can you see that in them? Are they taking initiative? Is it something that they've been working on before you met them, right? These are really important indicators of, health and maturity and somebody who's going to be a good partner and be able to support you when you need that, and you be able to support them. Because remember what marriage is? It's other-centeredness. Two people coming together to love, to show other-centeredness towards each other and serve each other, right? Serve each other in love. How can we support each other? Okay, that's what this is about. Cool. All right. Now, there are some notes on caution going into marriage. I have some really good quotes I want to share with you guys. This whole video is basically a whole bunch of caution signs, red lights flashing. Like, is this the person that... Are there red flags everywhere for you? Or are there green flags? Are there yellow flags? What kind of flags are you seeing? Now, I have, a couple of passages I want to share. So let's go to page 45. Let's see, what did I write down for page 45? Oh yes, this is a really, really, really good one. This is the one we want. Okay. Weigh every sentiment and watch every development of character in the one with whom you think to link your life destiny. The step you are about to take is one of the most important in your life and should not be taken hastily, not quickly. While you may love, do not love blindly. Examine carefully to see if your married life would be happy or inharmonious and wretched. Let the questions be raised: will this union help me heavenward? Will it increase my love for God? And will it enlarge my sphere of usefulness in this life? If these reflections present no drawback, then in the fear of God, move forward. I want you guys to get this book and go to page 45 and underline it and put stickers all over it and like sticky note tabs poking out the side so you can look at it. That's a really, really, really important quote, okay? Weigh every sentiment, every thought, every word that comes out of their mouth. Watch every development of character in the one whom you think to link your life destiny. The step you are about to take is one of the most important in your life, and it should not be done quickly. It shouldn't be taken hastily. It should not be rushed into at all. While you may love, do not love blindly. Examine carefully to see if your married life would be happy or inharmonious and wretched. Examine. This is not just like, think about it and come up with a bunch of dreamy ideas and fairy tales in your mind. No. Sit down and like do your taxes about it, essentially. Like, do the numbers. Study it out. Think this through as carefully as possible. I know it's really hard to do when you're all in the hormones and the high and everything of falling in love. This is why, if you are not falling in love with anyone right now, this is the time to think about it. That's why I was starting to think about it as soon as I had that conversation with God 4 years ago. Like, how can I be best prepared before I get to that time, before I get all filled with hormones and I can't think straight, right? I want to know, I want to have my principles, I want to have my boundaries set before that day comes so I can think clearly and I can be like, yep, this person ticks that box and that box and that box that I had already listed out when I could think straight. Okay, I had the list in my head, I know what it is. Now I see that person, oh no, that person over there, they don't meet this select criteria. Unfortunately, as beautiful as you are, you gotta go. Alright, moving on to the next one. So it's really, really, really important, guys, to think about this carefully. Let the questions be raised: will this union, will this marriage, will this partnership with this person help me heavenward? Will they be a good spiritual influence on me? And am I going to be able to do that back to them, right? Are we going to be able to pick each other up when we fall, when we sin, when we, are discouraged by the enemy, when we are experiencing attack, when we're doing ministry together and things get hard? Is this person going to be able to encourage me? And am I going to be able to encourage them, right? Will it increase my love for God? Is this person in love with Jesus so much that you fall more in love with Jesus? That is a really important thing. That should be like the top box on your list. Do they love Jesus so much that I love Jesus more when I'm with them? Okay? That's super important. Will it enlarge my sphere of usefulness in this life? Will being married to this person help me to be more useful to more people? Remember, love is other-centeredness. It's serving other people. Being married is about serving that other person, and being married means you're both serving more people together. If these reflections present no drawback, if every box is ticked, every single box is ticked, then in the fear of God, move forward. Remembering to keep God in the equation, and you're checking with him, is this right? Is this correct? I think they tick all these boxes. What do you have to say, God? Not rushing, remember? No rushing. just slowly moving forward a little bit. In the fear of God, move forward. Okay. Now there's another passage, and we're going to go to page 71. And I think we're going to look at 72 as well. All right, these are the last ones. So, page 71. If men and women are in the habit of praying twice a day before they contemplate marriage, they should pray 4 times a day when such a step is anticipated. If you are used to doing your daily devotions 2 times a day, reading the Bible in the morning and praying, reading the Bible in the evening right before bed, if you're used to doing that twice a day, and then you're preparing to get married, you need to be praying at least 4 times a day, okay? You should be experiencing more closeness with God. You should be desiring more wisdom from God when you are considering someone who you plan to marry. This is such a significant decision that will impact the entirety of the rest of your life and your ability to serve others and to serve God, that you need to be really, really including God in every moment of your decision making. There's no room for error in this, okay? This is so serious. We're going to also... there's so many good quotes in this chapter. This is chapter 10, When Counsel is Needed. Go buy this book, please. You don't even have to buy it, but like I recommend it. Like you can get it online. You can get the Ellen White Readings app. You can just buy it, honestly. It's really good because you can underline it and you can look at it all the time. It says on page 70, now this wasn't even in my notes, but I'm going to read it because it's underlined. If there is any subject that should be considered with calm reason and unimpassioned judgment, it is the subject of marriage. If ever the Bible is needed as a counselor, it is before taking a step that binds persons together for life. But the prevailing sentiment is that in this matter the feelings are to be the guide, and in too many cases, lovesick sentimentalism takes the helm and guides to certain ruin. Okay? Unless they are diligent students of that word, the Bible, they will make grave mistakes, which will mar the happiness, their happiness and that of others, both for the present and for the future life. Okay? This is super serious, guys. I don't know, like, I'm sorry, like, if you feel like I'm making whole marriage thing sound way too serious, but it's really serious, okay? Once you get to be married, sure, there will be good times and joy and love and all that kind of thing, but it's serious as well. Now we're going to read a passage from page 72, and this hopefully will be it. So this one's, in business, men and women manifest great caution. Before engaging in any important enterprise, they prepare themselves for their work. Time, money, and much careful study are devoted to the subject, lest they shall make a failure in their undertaking. How much greater caution should be exercised in entering the marriage relation, a relation which affects future generations and the future life. Instead of this, it is often entered upon with jest and levity, impulse and passion, blindness and lack of calm consideration. The only explanation of this is that Satan loves to see misery and ruin in the world, and he weaves this net to entangle souls. He rejoices to have these inconsiderate persons lose their enjoyment of this world and their home in the world to come. So, that is the cautions. That's a bunch of advice and wisdom that I have for you guys. It's certainly not everything that's in that book or anything that is out in, other resources that you can come across, but I really hope that something that I've shared with you guys today has been helpful. Please be prayerful. Please be considerate and, what's the word that I'm looking for? Discerning. Please be very discerning. Satan really wants to trip us up. I think a lot of us here who have been a part of the Kingdom Marriage sort of community on YouTube for the last couple of years, there's been a lot of people out there who are out there tricking people, essentially, and just preying on our emotions and just being really weird about all this kind of stuff. Essentially, Satan wants you to mess your life up, and he will do that in any way he possibly can. Jesus really wants you to have the best life possible, and he wants you to marry someone who is going to glorify God alongside you, and you're gonna have a good life built together so that you can share the gospel with as many people and bring light and joy and eternity to as many people as possible. So be very careful, be discerning, pray a bunch, and share this with a friend. I'll see you guys again next Friday. Bye.